Wrong music. Hello everyone. This is Omar from the Third Rail. We have a special guest today. Our guest name is Kent Heckenlovely. Heckenlovely is an attorney, a science teacher, and a New York Times best-selling author. He got 14 books under his belt. During college, Mr. Heckenlovely worked for
There
U.S.
you go.
Senator Pete Wilson in the law school. He was a writer of the editor of the school's law review and spent his summer working for the U.S. Attorney Office in the great San Francisco, where I left my heart. Welcome to the program, Kent.
Thanks for having me.
How are you? You don't mind me calling you Kent, right? It's more formal, right?
I don't mind at all.
Okay, I'm glad to have you here. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's my microphone or anything, but I hope it's recording. I wanna know. Can you tell the people first about you, who you are, who is Kent Heckenlovely first, so they get an idea?
So my background is as an attorney, and for the past 18 years, I've been a California public school teacher. And in approximately 2014, I published my first book, Plague, with Dr. Judy Mikovits. She's become very well known with our Plague of Corruption book and Ending Plague, the Case Against Masks. So I've done 4 books with Judy, and I've done 3 books with Project Veritas Whistleblowers. And
Yeah.
so this book, Presidential Takedown, is co-authored with Dr. Paul Alexander, who was the senior pandemic advisor from approximately May of 2020 to September of that year.
Right.
And the story that he tells behind the scenes as the COVID lockdowns were getting going, and the science was showing that schools shouldn't be closed, businesses should be open, we should have been protecting the vulnerable. But other than that, we should have been letting people get back to their lives. It's really an amazing story because he was pushed out by the deep state.
Okay. What's the deep state? What is that?
Well, the best way to say it is it's the bureaucracy that
Right.
believes certain things should happen. Now,
Right.
Dr. Paul Alexander is an Oxford-trained evidence-based medicine expert, but he grew up in the Caribbean. So
Right.
he's got a thick Caribbean accent,
Right.
and he's originally from, his background is Middle Eastern and North African. So
Oh,
he doesn't look like your typical Trump guy,
right.
right? So the story that he told me in putting this book together is, as the senior pandemic advisor, he was able to go to the executive lunchroom, for lack of a better word, at Health and Human Services, and he'd meet with all these top officials from Health and Human Services and department heads, and they basically say to him, "Hey, bro, what are
Yeah.
you doing? Supporting Trump? You don't know what's really going on." And
Yeah.
and they say to him during the midst of this pandemic. So this is the greatest public health crisis in 100 years in our country. These bureaucrats were not acting as servants of the people. But what they
Yeah.
would say to Paul again and again was, our job every day is to make Trump look like an idiot on the evening news.
Right.
Not to open the country, not to get therapeutics out there, but that's what Paul saw time and time again. And because of his position, he was at the very center of it. He was really joined in the hip with Michael Caputo, who was really running the whole thing. And Caputo, brilliant guy, but not a scientist. And so
Yeah, but
he needed a scientist that he trusted. And he said to Paul, "You will be with me at every single meeting I have with a scientist because I need you to tell me whether they're telling me the truth."
okay. So the deep state is in individual, not the institutions. I guess from what you're saying right now is the gatekeepers or the people, the bureaucrats who's been there for decades. But we need these institutions as a country. The states, the deep state cannot be the FBI. It cannot be the Pentagon. It cannot be the. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, and so I think that the deep state is really this culture of we know better. We're the bureaucrats and we know better.
Oh,
Okay. So they didn't want people asking them questions. In fact, the reason that Paul was eventually, had to resign
yeah.
from the COVID-19 commission is because during the summer of 2020, he was gathering all the evidence showing that schools should be open. And he
Right.
was presenting that to them and writing long emails. He provided me copies of those emails. Those emails are in our book.
Yeah.
And, what they did was they took this long scientific email and took out a
Yeah.
couple, words. Basically,
Yeah.
we want them infected
Right.
to create a narrative that, oh, he wants children to die.
Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
this guy out of here. And, now we are 3 years post pandemic, and we know of the terrible damage that we've done to our children.
Well, I understand the children, the immune system was very strong. So a lot of people were trying to get, what was it called? Herd immunity or something was called like
Yeah.
that. That's what they're trying to do. Let it take its course, let the immune system fight. But you had a lot of weak people. Like, for example, I'm going to give you my aunt. My aunt was 72 years old. She had heart problems. She's already dying anyway. But
Yep.
the whole idea is she got COVID-19, and that added, that contributed to her death. She died from from her heart issues, but COVID-19 was the reason that she got all that stress. For example, like if you have HIV and you get AIDS, you don't die from AIDS. AIDS doesn't kill anybody, but it weakens the system, and you die from cancer or from anything of ammonia. So you understand what I'm saying? That's why people were scared.
Oh, 100%. And
Yeah,
and that's why the part of the book is also about the controversy over hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin,
yeah,
which, the World Health Organization said these are essential medications,
yeah,
very good safety profile of these medications. And suddenly they become, forbidden. And, what happens in a viral infection is it's not necessarily the virus, it's the body's overreaction to it that causes a
yeah,
problem. So
yeah, yeah.
what you kind of want to do is you want to kind of silence the virus, cut down its ability to do a lot of things. And hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin had that capability. And even if they didn't, they're extremely safe medications. I mean, you got people who take them, Africa takes
Yeah.
hydroxychloroquine like it's
That's,
candy because it deals with malaria.
but ivermectin, I think, is for for worms, right? So like stomach worms, parasite, like third world diseases. It's not for viruses and respiratory that it deals with the issue. Like you just said, I have COPD, like a respiratory disease,
Hmm.
and once I get a problem, they give me steroids. It calms down my immune system from attacking, to let my lungs get all the stuff out. But ivermectin was not a. It's not. It was proven that it doesn't do anything for COVID-19. I mean,
Well, now let's talk about
yeah,
an immune system that is
yeah,
under attack. Okay, so
yeah,
one of the problems I think we have in Western medicine
yeah,
is we look just at one thing. Many
right,
things happen. So if your immune system gets compromised, okay, what you have is you also have a buildup of bad bacteria. You have a buildup of parasites. So what happens is the fact that your immune system has been compromised means a whole lot of things are going on.
yeah,
So I've heard it said, and I think it's a relatively good argument that, maybe these things are not taking out the virus directly,
right,
but they're taking out the things that cause the complications. So,
right.
so you lower the trouble in your body, and then your body has a much better chance of fighting it off.
Okay, I want to go back to Donald Trump, the president, former president Donald Trump. When we were all scared in the beginning because we never heard of this disease. Everybody, for example, me and my wife, when we used to get the grocery delivery, she would spray the boxes with Clorox in the beginning. We were so scared. I mean, it's like those movies and those the zombies are coming to get us. But the whole idea, I think, you have to blame the president. He had no messaging. His whole administration was always about he's in the headline every night for the wrong reasons. Every night for
Mhm.
the wrong reasons. You understand? He never took advantage of the situation and calmed down the country and said, listen, we're going to be on this together. Wear the mask right now. Wear the mask right now. Let's see where we are at until we calm down and see what this disease does. You understand? Instead of, in one hand, he put billions and billions of dollars for the vaccine. He should, you understand? He should get credit for that. Well, at the same time, he said, don't wear a mask. It's kung fu, Chinese food, whatever. it was hard to take him seriously as an individual, especially Donald Trump. I'm a New Yorker. I grew up with, I know him very good because he's always in the headlines in New York. I think Donald Trump was his own enemy. He had no messaging. If he had just shut up on certain things, he would have been successful. He'd been reelected with no problem. But every night, I'm watching the news. He's for the wrong reasons. Oh, shithole countries, whatever. The blacks, they're Muslim ban. Things that he doesn't need to add to his issues. You understand what I'm saying here? So the deep state,
100%. And what I think that this book does is
yeah,
it takes you behind the scenes,
yeah,
so you see what was going on, both positive and negative.
right,
Because I think on the positive side, Trump is a good sort of corporate executive that he likes to
he boasts.
throw things against the wall and see what sticks, and I think
Yeah,
that's really good.
yeah,
But I think one of the problems that he had is when he was a businessman,
right,
he could count on the fact that the people who were below him were competent. So
right,
he could ask them these questions, throw out lots of things. And I think that what he didn't realize was when he got to Washington, he would be surrounded by people who may not have had their best interests at heart. And to your point, I think two of the people that he put into his cabinet, Alex Azar, for example, was
yeah,
a Pfizer executive.
right.
And there's another gentleman whose name escapes me at the moment, also a Pfizer executive. So I think that Trump had that problem that a lot of rich guys have, which is they trust other people who've got credentials
Yeah,
and are they're the fellow alpha males,
right.
and sometimes the alpha males are as corrupt as they come.
Yeah.
And I think that was Trump's blind spot. He asked good questions, but when it came down to it, I don't think he made the right decision on a lot of things.
Because when he ran on the idea of cleaning the swamp, right? We all agreed, yeah, we got to clean up Washington. Everybody know Washington is corrupt. Everybody knows both political parties right now are not serving the American people. They're just serving themselves, investigating each other like little children playing games at the schoolyard. But what he did is all his cabinet was from Goldman Sachs, Gary Cohen, all this stuff, Munch, what is his name? Everybody in Wall Street. He bought everybody. He bought the swamp from New York and all over the place to Washington, and he chose corrupt congressmen as the interior. What's his name? Zini, and the other guy. What's it? The Secretary of Interior, and the other one, I don't know what he was. I don't know. Huh?
Ryan Zinke.
Ryan Zinke, and the other guy who wanted to get his wife, what do you call that? That chicken spot. He wanted to get his. I was sending his chef. He's sending his guards to get free oil from hotels. It shows you how fucking crazy they are. So he bought all the wrong people. So if you brought everybody to the asylum house, who's going to be the one in charge? Nobody. You
I have to agree. And in fact, between my co-author and I, my co-author says, look, I saw Trump up close. I think he deserves a second term because he knows all the ways he messed up. I'm a little bit more on the fence about that because I say, well, he got there and he should have done these things. I think there were a number of things that he should have done. So for me, I'm not really looking at Trump. I'm looking at other people. But I am aware that when Trump comes out and says, I want to obliterate the deep state, that's a pretty big thing to say. But I don't know if he genuinely means it.
No,
and that troubles me.
He's a person who chases his own interest. I don't know. You see, I grew up in New York City all my life. Every day I going to school, when they had the newsstands, there's a lot of newspapers in those days. Every morning I go to school, I look at the headlines. I don't have no money to buy the paper. Trump, Trump, girlfriend, Trump cheated on his wife. Trump is this. Trump is that. Trump is this. He likes scandals. He likes to see his name. He's a narcissistic individual. And then when he ran on a populist message, believe it or not, him and Bernie Sanders are the same thing. But the other guy is a populist from the left who hates the establishment. And the other guy came from the right who's a populist, who hates the establishment. So they agree on a lot of things. But the issue, once Donald Trump got in there, he never delivered for those people in the rallies. He delivered a tax cuts for the rich, $2 trillion, $1 trillion. He never delivered for those people who came for him every single time in his rallies, 30,000, 20,000. A matter of fact, he was trying to take the health care away. The Obama repeal and replace was all BS. Where the Republican Party had no plans.
Yeah.
And those people are saying, yeah, replace it. They're all on that. It's called the Affordable Act. What I'm saying is Donald Trump never delivered. Donald Trump is nothing but a headliner. I don't know, as a minority, I could see him as a dog whistler. You understand that some of his messages were scary sometimes. Like for me, I will read into it. Like, for example, I give you, for me, I'm an Arab American. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. Oh, the borders are open. A matter of fact, they're finding prayer rugs in the border. What the message there? That means there's Muslims come in the country, they're gonna rob the country. Does he have to put the word prayer rugs in there? It's all Mexicans and Guatemalans trying to get in the country, and he was the president. The whole idea is he was his own worst enemy. The deep state did not need to do anything. Just watch him fall every day, because every time I see him, like right now, he's in the news 24 hours. They're trying to indict him, whatever. Trump did this, Trump said that, but he never was on the news for the right thing every night. He had a lot of supporters sometimes. There's a lot in my community who are conservatives, who believe, who are against this the social changes that's going on in our country, that debate, the transgender community and all that stuff, the LGBTQ. A lot of people are religious in my community. They really liked him. And I was surprised, when I said, what do you like about this guy? Because I'm a liberal at heart. Oh, he's for this, or that. But he never delivered his message. He never came on. I'm going to let you talk. I don't want to talk all over you. The example, one time he was at the White House press conference. He had the Secretary of State. He had the Secretary of Defense. He had all the scientists. He gets up. You know what? I'm number one on Facebook. Do I really want to hear that he's number one? And it's a lie. He's not number one. It was Obama number. But it doesn't matter. You're there to talk to me. I'm scared. There's a disease out there. I don't know what it is. Everybody's hiding in their house like we're in Berlin in World War II, at the end of the World War II. And he'll come up there and talk about it. His statue on Facebook or on social media. How can I take him seriously? Yeah, you understand, as an intellectual person like you and me, who went to school, have an education, and who listen to certain words, because words mean a lot. How do you take this person? I mean, I don't even think he was successful as a president. He had no success.
Yeah, so I would disagree with you on a couple things. I think there were some successes. Okay. I'm thrilled that he kept us out of any major wars, and now what we're going on with Biden, I think is terrifying with what's going on with Russia. A lot of economic indicators did improve substantially before the pandemic. So I think that there was a lot of that, but but there were guardrails that were not put on. And so I think, voters can think what they want about Trump. And if they believe that he genuinely does want to obliterate the deep state this time, okay, well, maybe vote for him. For me, I'm kind of looking at other people like, I'm actually very interested in Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s run, because I think the Democrats need to stop being crazy with trying to take away free speech and what they've done with big tech. I think Vivek Ramaswamy is really interesting as a Republican because of his Indian background, and so I think that there's what I'm hopeful for 2024 is that we get actual people who want to be reformers on both the right and the left, and I think you can make a good argument that Ron DeSantis has done pretty well with things, and I want both sides of the political aisle to understand that the institutions are not serving us. They're serving their own interests. And, we need some sort of change that, is systemic, not just, another bunch of Goldman Sachs people, as you said.
Yeah, he fell down. Okay, where do you fall on the political spectrum? Are you a right winger? Are you a mega? I want to ask you. Are you a Republican? I'll have an understanding. I want to tell you what I am. I'm a liberal piece of shit. So we're gonna get that out of the way. I'm not gonna. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I have been politically over the map. I have tended to vote more Republican, but In the
Yeah.
90s, I voted for Bill Clinton twice. So,
Yeah.
and this time, if Robert Kennedy wins the Democratic nomination, I'm going to pull the lever for Robert Kennedy, because I
Well, is
think
he
that
running? Is he running? I don't think he's running.
he is considering it. He's put it out. He said in New Hampshire he's considering it, and he's waiting to see. So I've got a
Ah,
long experience with Kennedy because he's endorsed some of my books, wrote the foreword for Plague of Corruption, and even though we may politically disagree on some things, I believe in his integrity, and that's what matters to me.
I'm going to agree on you certain things, but I don't think the Republican Party is no longer a political party to me. They have no they have no issues. It's all about CRT, trans agenda. What do you call those people who dance? What do you call them? I don't know.
The
Story
drag
hour.
stories, yeah.
Oh, drag queen. I can't even remember that word. I know the drag queen hour. The contract with America. Remember when it all started with that gang that came in 1994 with New Gingers and Delay, and they came and Fox News came into and they just lost the message. And there's no more Reagan. The Reagan
Yeah,
Republican.
and there's no more Bill Clinton, who
Well, Bill Clinton was more of a Republican. If you look at him, because he stole their mandates. He
well,
moved all the way to he moved to the center. He's smart, and he just took all their energy and sucked it out of the room and left them all trying to impeach him for getting a blowjob. That's all they try to accomplish. You understand?
I had the experience of going to see Bill Clinton in 1996 when
I
he gave
loved
a
him.
speech,
Yeah,
when he gave a speech in Oakland, California. Okay, so
yeah,
as democratic red meat as you can get, and I'm thinking, okay, what's this guy going to be saying there? And so he gets up there and he says, in his voice, I won't try to imitate him, but he goes, I worked with those Republicans, Newt Gingrich and Bob Dole, and
yeah.
they're not bad guys.
No, they were not. Yeah,
They see things differently than we do, but they're not bad guys. We can sit down and we can have a discussion. And I thought, oh man, you are so smart, because
that's supposed to be like that. Yeah,
for better or worse, our favored candidate is not going to always win.
yeah,
So when our favorite candidate doesn't win, what those of us who lost want to
yeah,
see is, we want to see, like, okay, I don't agree with you on everything, but you're a good person,
yeah,
and let's talk, and let me see if I can convince you
yeah.
that what my strategy is going to get you what you want,
Right.
not this demonization. And I've written about the demonization in politics.
Yeah,
I grew up, I wrote the Republican column in my college newspaper, and my best friend was the one who wrote the liberal, the
yeah.
Democratic side. And I think we've forgotten how to just connect to each other as people and say, hey, I see this. What do you see? Hey, and maybe together we come up with something better.
Okay, I want to ask you something. What is the platform of the Republican Party right now? What's the
Uh,
message? What do you get?
so for me, quite honestly, I get that it's an anti-war party. We
Okay,
don't want to go to have a war in Ukraine with Russia.
okay,
I think it is a control the border party, and
okay,
we just had the border chief say, hey, it's a disaster. So
okay,
that is a disaster.
okay,
I think we need to have our own energy, and I'm kind of a big proponent of Generation 4 nuclear, but
okay.
we're going to have to. A country that doesn't control its energy is at the mercy of other countries.
So we always been
And
like that. Okay,
I think that the biggest threat in the world today is China. And I
China.
don't see anybody confronting China in the way that Reagan confronted the Soviet Union. And I think we need so there are 5 things that I think the Republican
Oh,
Party
okay.
does.
Okay, these are buzzwords from when I hear that. Okay, China is the monster we created because we invested. We made China what it is. In the 90s, China was all these cantons of cities, farmers. They had nothing. So we invested all that money. That's one thing. What I fail to hear is social issues. What are you gonna do? I don't hear Ron DeSantis talking about inflation. He doesn't talk about that. Economic, social issues, safety nets, healthcare, things that if you look at rural America doesn't have access to hospital. The hospital's closing. If you have a heart attack in rural America, it takes you 2 hours to get to an emergency room. And the reason these hospitals are closing because some of these states don't accept the Medicaid grants from the Obamacare. So I'm not hearing that. What I hear from DeSanto is Walt Disney. This is where woke comes to die. I don't want to hear that. You could sell that to the poor people or the poor whites in Midwest America who like to hear the fighting song. You understand? But you don't have no merchandise. You're not selling me something that's going to benefit me as an American citizen. DeSanto, I don't hear any message. He came out the other day about the war in Ukraine. But when he was a congressman, he was a staunch he was a hawk. He said, "No, we can't let the Putin go all of a sudden. Now you're a dub because you want to compete with Donald Trump."
Yeah, which is why, like I said, my preferred
You know
candidate.
how I like. There's a guy named Sununu. I don't know. He's the governor of New Hampshire. I think
Yeah,
Jack. What's his name? Jack Sununu or something like that.
John Sununu.
I like him. He has a style. He talks to me. He tells jokes. I saw him on CNN. I'm like, oh, I like this guy. You know, I'm a liberal guy. I like, yo, he's me. You understand? Huh?
Here's what's wonderful. You're going to vote for a Republican this cycle if it's Sununu, and I'm going to vote for a Democrat this cycle. Isn't that a wonderful thing?
So you don't want to? No. I don't think you need. I think we need to cool down the temperature. The comfort. The temperature was very hot when Donald Trump was president. It was hateful among Americans. The talk of civil war, a national divorce, neighbor hated neighbor. I used to watch the news, CNN, all that. I'm like, oh, the walls are closing in. I go up to the mall. Everybody's shopping. They're getting their haircuts. Nobody gives a damn what's going on the cable news. The whole idea is we need a leader that's going to bring back the country, put the country together. Like Ronald Reagan. I was a kid. I used to love his speeches, and I was a kid. I mean, I used to like to listen to him. He was a good, he's a good looking man. And as a youngster, I used to watch his speeches. He used to talk to everybody, and he was a right wing guy. He was
Yep.
a staunch Republican, but he still communicated to everybody. He still said, "This is the shining hill." What do you call America? The shining
City on the hill.
the shining city in the hell. And that means America is for everybody. He's the Republican president that gave 3 million immigrants. What is it called? What do you call that?
Yeah, I gave him amnesty.
Amnesty. A Republican president because of the farming shortages at that time. You don't have that. The Republican Party no longer produces those kind of men that will talk to the whole country. Donald Trump could have became president and said, "Now I am the president of all America." To those who did not, just say this, even if it's bullshit. To those who did not vote for me, I will work as hard for you as the other people. But all of a sudden, he kept on throwing red meat to his base, red meat, red meat, red meat, red meat to his base, and that's it. And he never talked to me. You understand? He never spoke to me. They
Yeah,
are
even though I am probably going to vote Democratic in this next election,
who
let me be fair, which
you
is
think who you think is going to be Democrats?
on the right hand side,
Yeah,
what happened from CNN, the perspective of CNN, and
I
a
don't watch
lot
it
of
no more. Yeah,
well, yeah, you don't watch it anymore because you don't trust it,
I don't trust
and
them.
so see, I wrote a book on CNN.
Yeah,
From the standpoint of somebody who started working for them as a Bernie Sanders supporter and
yeah,
saw what happened after Charlottesville and how CNN completely misrepresented what Trump had said. And in
yeah,
fact, CNN is saying, hey, Trump is whipping up hatred. Well, what happened 30 minutes before that nutcase drove into the crowd? Who did
yeah,
CNN have on for an extended interview? They had David Duke. So I think that there's a lot of hatred because I think that unfortunately we as human beings we're drawn to the fight. We're not drawn, and so part of my message is I think we need to become better consumers of news. And so
yes,
when we see somebody, because it used to be Ted Turner at CNN used to have this idea that when there was a debate, you would have the smartest person on the left debate the smartest person on the right, give them
yeah,
15-20 minutes, let people decide.
yeah,
What
yeah,
happened because they've learned how to monetize outrage is, if you're a left-wing organization, you have a stupid guy on the right and a
yeah,
fairly smart guy on the left. Fox News does the same thing.
They're
And so,
captured. Yeah.
but part of what I say is, and people are doing it because CNN is having its lowest, lowest
Garbage.
viewership
Garbage.
in decades,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's just sickening how both sides. Fox News I can't watch, so I'm not
I
watching
don't
Fox.
watch that. No.
I'm not watching CNN because
Yeah.
I even though I'm conservative, I see the kind of things that Fox News is doing, and I'm just like, oh, come on. I like the
Yeah.
old days, what was that show? Crossfire. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
where you'd have like a really smart lefty against a
Yeah.
really smart righty,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
sit there and I'd go, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you something that the way I see the media right now, it's driven by profits, like the people who make weapons. They need wars to sell guns, right or wrong, because
Yeah.
they have shareholders. They need to show a profit every 90 days. If there's no war, there's no profit. The stock falters and everybody loses money. So war is an incentive for these. So is cable news. Uh-oh. I think we lost Kent. Salah Ali. Yeah, give me a second. Give me a second. How about I mess up? No, I'm getting beat up my own mic. You there? Okay, we're back, guys. Hold on, my mouse is not working. Don't talk yet. Hold on. Okay. All right. Here we go. We're back. Okay, let's go. Okay, we were talking about like how the weapon makers need wars to satisfy the appetite of their shareholders. So is news right now. The cable news has become a content. We need to get content, no matter what it is. We need to keep people watching all day, all night, 24 hours a day. We need that, like people on YouTube. They need to shock people with the thumbnails, whatever. That's the problem we have. Before, we used to feed, as Americans, we used to feed from almost the same stream of news. We used to watch the three news, CBS, Dan Rather, I think it was, Tom Brokaw, and Peter Jennings. May he rest in peace. I used to watch them. As a kid, I love news. You know what introduced me to politics? Mario Cuomo. I heard one time his speech as a kid, 1984, and I just started. So the whole idea is that we as Americans used to feed from almost the same stream. They used to tell the news. There was no profit. They just said, they just read the telemarketer, whatever you want to call it. But now you have Sean Hannity. Sean Hannity, I know. I grew up in New York City. He used to be on WABC every day. He's a piece of shit. I'm gonna say that like this guy, what's his name? The new guy in the block, what's his name? At 8 o'clock on Fox, Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson every night. This is white replacement. We're just asking questions. We're just asking questions. Really? Is homeless are really homeless? You're not asking questions. Stop. You're dividing the nation. Even CNN is a piece of shit. I don't even have it on any of my programs. I mean, so I won't watch it by accident. I don't even get that satisfaction about it. So we are driven by 24 hours of news. They have to keep you sit in the house and watch. And it's like to be continued. Like right now, we're waiting for Trump to get indicted all day. I'm waiting. Like, oh, they're going to say right now. Do you think that the news in their pursuit for profit are making the news instead of reporting the news?
Yeah, and I think they're driving people crazy. My CNN book asks the question, because what we do is we compare the media to a domestic abuser. So everybody with a domestic abuser, everybody focuses on the actual physical abuse. But one of the worst things that a domestic abuser does is they play mind games with their victim, and they get their victim to voluntarily disassociate themselves with friends and family members who would question the relationship. And so what we question is whether our mainstream media is actually acting as a domestic abuser, because you can't live in America and interact with people and not have friends and family members of differing political viewpoints. I mean, that's just freaking impossible. And what's happened And I saw it really clearly at the beginning of the Trump administration. I belonged to a book club, these nice older ladies, and I had this nice older lady, the meeting after Trump won. She
Yeah,
says, I'm gonna campaign in 2020 so that Trump gets defeated. I'm like, oh, okay, that's a good idea.
that's okay. Yeah,
And then she follows it up with, and I've unfriended all my friends and family who voted
yeah,
for
that's
Trump.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I kind of sat there going, well,
yeah,
wait a minute. Shouldn't you be engaging those people who did vote for
yeah.
Trump and saying, pointing things out? Because isn't that the way you should go? But it seems like our attempt in the political sphere is to go after smaller and smaller slivers of the pie rather than trying to, you know,
But
attract a large group of people under
Ken,
common principles.
we never had that before. I never got upset somebody who supported Bush. Even I hated Bush because he with the war in Iraq and on. I went to Washington and I protested. It was 100,000 people. And we didn't even get 3 seconds on CNN at that time on these. What I'm saying is that Donald Trump started the process of he's such a paralyzing individual that he makes you want to hate. You understand? Like I live in a good neighborhood here. I walk around, I see the Trump signs, and I say, oh man, these people they must be racist, huh? And I go to the Biden, oh, these are the good people over here. You understand? So that's what happened. That's what I hate about our politics, and I think Donald Trump contributed a lot to that idea of tribalism. The media's added more to political tribalism. In other words, we are nice to each other as Americans. We're not talking like we ain't doing right now across the table and exchanging ideas. At the end of that, we have lunch, we pay our bills, and we say, oh, I'll see you next time, Ken. You don't have that no more. You have this hateful energy where people like, and you have these leaders who are careless. Oh, we need a national divorce. What's the national divorce? Are you idiot? What are you talking about? This is not a marriage. The United States is a Catholic marriage. There's no divorce. The last time they tried to divorce, a lot of people died. So we don't want to kill all the kids on that. You understand what I'm saying here, Ken? So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know.
but
Go ahead.
the question I ask you
Uh,
is why are you falling for it?
no, I'm an open-minded. I'm liberal. I told you as it is, but I'm
Yeah,
open-minded. Like for example, I could agree with you about the teaching of kids transgender issue. School should be off limit to everybody. See, I'm with that. I agree. I go with you on that. I think school should be left alone. Kids should learn how to read and write and do math and do science and enjoy school. Leave all that energy, all that culture war. Leave them out of leave them at the school. I'm with you on that. I can, no liberal will tell you that. Like, oh, you guys want to beat up the transgender community because you're evil. No, 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 no. You're right on that. We don't need to expose our children to things right now that are not necessary. They're gonna find out themselves as they go along. You understand?
yeah.
They can watch TV right now. You know how much they could just Google anything. Remember, growing up, I used to go to a candy store hoping that the subscription thing will fall out of a Playboy magazine, and I get to see a girl with lingerie. Right now, they
Yeah.
just Google Pornhub. You could be 9 years old. You have access to everything. There's no way to defend our kids, but you should protect them from the culture wars. We should, leave the kids
Well,
alone.
one of the things that I just have to speak about, if Robert Kennedy Jr. does choose to run for president,
Yeah,
part of what he has said is that what the elites are doing
yeah,
is they understand that what they need to do is they need to make the left and right fight.
yeah,
Because if the left and right understand that we have common interests,
yeah. Oh man, the camera. Okay,
we would go up against these entrenched interests, whether that is the
I
military
told you.
industrial complex, whether that's the intelligence agencies, whether it's big pharma.
Let me tell you an example. The Bernie Sanders people, I supported Bernie Sanders. I think he talks truth to power. We have the same message. You got the right is against war. We're against war. You're against big pharma. We're against big pharma. You're against government we're against government overreaching, like get of that stuff. You think Washington is a swamp. We think Washington is a swamp. There's so much in common with poor Democrat and poor Republican, then they know. If they only vote their interests and come to terms and say, listen, I'm here in Kentucky. Kentucky has the 12 poorest counties in the United States. And I keep on voting for Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul. We're poor as hell. If it wasn't for the federal government, they probably go at bankruptcy. They get $114 billion of free money a year just to stay afloat. Why are we voting for the same idiots every time? What are you going to do for me? They voted against the insulin cap. They voted against to lower the drug. This is the Republicans. They voted against the drug overpricing. It's like they're working for corporate America, but they get. I'm going to say this. People get mad at me when I say this, but they get the poor whites to vote every single time against their own interests, because when they go to the poll, they vote their color instead of their interests as economic interests and social interests. You cannot do that because they come up every time. The LBGT, CRT, Willie Horton, all this. They always come with all these slogans, but they don't deliver. They don't deliver. They never. They don't have nothing.
And I think what's developing is an understanding on both the right and the left of exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because I'll look at for example, I'm in California.
Yeah.
Okay, so I look at Nancy Pelosi. I look at Dianne Feinstein. What Feinstein is worth $600 million.
Yeah.
Pelosi's worth $100 million. Well,
Yeah.
Pelosi's been in government for 40 years. How do you get $100 million? Well, you kind of buddy up to China, and you got Mitch McConnell butting up to China. I've actually had lunch with Rand Paul, and I think he's one of the few people who's actually trying to make a difference. But why is he stuck in a state with Mitch McConnell? Mitch McConnell is everything that is wrong with the Republican Party. And he should be out. When I heard he fell the other day, I was like, "Oh, good, maybe he'll leave."
No, that's it.
But the turtle got up.
Huh? Yeah, but I'm telling you that. I, by the way, I'm loving your conversation. I mean, we haven't argued yet, so we on everything. I mean, we got the same thinking, but maybe we have different ways of getting at it. We have the same ambitions as Americans. Like I told you, Donald Trump is going to lose the Republican Party if he gets the primary. He's going to lose the general election. People, you know what Donald Trump is like? When you have those old comedians like Don Rickles, all that, they have the same jokes, the same materials every year. They never change until they died. Instead of having new materials, he's doing the same thing he's doing in 2016. Oh, that sounds new. Oh, look at him. He hates the establishment. But once he got in and started, and had an orgy with them, we don't want him no more. Even DeSantis, I don't like I think Ron DeSantis is nothing but a guy who yells fire all day long. And he's what they call a moving target with an empty pocket. He has nothing in his pocket, but he's all over the place. He's a moving target. You said Robert Kennedy. Now, Robert Kennedy, I don't know if the name is toxic or not, but the Kennedys have a historical sacrifice to this country. Both their kids died and things of that nature. But they already have him as a loon. They already depict him as crazy with what do you call it, with his position on vaccines. He's already as soon as he opened his mouth, you already have this. Oh, he's crazy. This guy doesn't believe in vaccine. He's already what do you call it, demonized already before he even going to speak, and he has an issue with speaking. May God bless him. You understand? But what I'm saying. So I don't think he's gonna. You need a sununu. You need a sununu who could talk, tell jokes, looks like human.
Or who I've been hearing over the past couple of days, who I think is very interesting, is Vivek Ramaswamy. Have you listened to him at all?
No, I never heard Swami. No.
You're going to be in for a treat. Okay.
What's his name?
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Vivek Swami. It sounds Indian. Is that Indian?
He is Indian. Yeah. He was born in
so,
Michigan.
Yeah. You think America is ready for that?
I do. I mean, you listen to. Here's one of the things that I will say, even though I'm conservative, I really value intelligence in a person. I didn't vote for Obama, but I could appreciate. Oh my God, he is really smart. Just listen to him talk. Beautiful language.
I don't like him, by the way. Go ahead.
Vivek Ramaswamy has potential to be a breakout guy, because he's on Twitter now like 5-10 times a day, and he'll record these 5-minute things, and he just talks. He's not talking from a prompter, and he's brilliant. He is really good. He's 37 years old, so maybe he's too young, but oh my God, I could listen to that guy forever. So, but I'm supporting Kennedy if he runs.
I hope he runs. I'm going to support him with you, just to give you an idea. I don't think Swami's going to have a chance right now because, like you said, the deep state is not ready. The deep state is going to get somebody from within. Somebody who's going to play the game. Somebody's going to, they're going to split the cake together when they slice the wealth of the United States. I think America politics is the most corrupt in the whole world, money-wise. There's so much corruption, but we're so rich, we don't notice it. Like, you understand?
That's a great way to say it.
Yeah, we so
I'm
we
going
don't
to
notice
steal
it.
that from you.
Yeah. Because let's say brothers. Like I grew up in a home. We used to fight because we were poor over sneakers. But if we had money, everybody would have their own thing. We're not fight. People fight over money. So like a third world country, there's not there enough to steal. So the countries go back. But there's so much money. They just print it all night in Washington. I don't know what place. I want to go rob it. And they were so rich, we not notice it. For example, I'm going to give you right now what's going on in Ukraine. My thinking is, let's say we're going to give them $4 billion for arms, right? They're not negotiating the prices for the arms because they're getting it like free. So the money goes from one hand to another. The first person is going to take a 10% fee of handling the money. Then instead of buying the tank at 200 million, they're going to charge him 250 because he cannot negotiate because he's getting free money. By the time the aid leaves the United States, it's only $2 billion. The $2 billion already gone. Kickbacks here and there, the fees, all that stuff. So by the time he gets what he gets, it's only $2 billion. There's so much corruption in our country. It's unbelievable. Both parties are. You know what I was afraid of? They're going to corrupt the third branch, the jury, and they really did. I used to say to myself, we still have that. I hope they leave that alone. But once I watched the news and they said, "Oh, he's a Trump judge, he's a Biden, he's a Obama judge," even the judges now we got him into corners of who put him in place. They're supposed to be blind. So the two branches of the government, the executive and the legislative, they're all corrupt right now in the United States. They're not serving the American people. No way. Even the Republicans right now, what are they doing? Oh, we're going to investigate Twitter. What are you investigating? What are you going to do for me? Attack Biden on inflation. People are paying more. When I buy food for myself, I'm disabled, by the way. I had a stroke. I depend on Walmart to deliver. It costs me a lot, but when I see $100, doesn't buy me what it used to buy me last year. You understand what I'm saying? Talk to me, my pockets. I want to know I don't want to know what Twitter and Elon Musk or they were conspiring against conservatives. I don't give a F. Excuse my language. This is an opportunity. You have 2 years to talk to me, to talk to your voters. What are you going to deliver for them after 2 years? When you finish, what you did all these dumb oversight. Nobody's even watching. No, even cares what they're saying. Even the January 6th committee is over. We already forgot it. Americans, we have a short memory. We're like a fish. Fish has a 3 minutes before he forgets who he is. We have the same thing. They are not delivering for the American people. The legislative branch, the most important one, is the first article, and the executive branch. We still had the jury. It was still okay until they packed it with all these right wingers. They started. I'm going to let you talk. For example, when they overturned Roe versus Wade, nobody's having abortion like they used to before. People are taking like Tylenol. Nobody's going to a clinic and get an instrument inside her. It's over. The game is over. That war is over. It's already been won. They're taking pill like Tylenol and they go, and the next day they go dancing in a dance club and they do it all over again. There was no need to take that right away and create the situation and people going voting against. I don't know if it's a question. It's more of a statement. What do you think? Give me an idea. What do you think about our branches of government?
Well, the title of my most well-known book is Plague of Corruption. So yes. That's kind of what I think about it. And for me personally, my book on masks was banned by Amazon.
Yeah.
I've been deplatformed, banned from traveling to Australia because I talk about vaccines. So I think that there's a corruption in the American system. We're not having those good American values of free speech and open debate. And I think that what's happening, and remember, I come from a more conservative background, but what I'm saying is there's a structural problem. The structural problem is that the moneyed interests are buying off both sides of the political aisle. So if you're on the left side, when you hear the terrible things about the Republicans, you kind of say to yourself, "Oh yeah, I agree with that. They're terrible people." And on the right side, you heard the terrible things about liberal, and you go, oh, well, okay, I believe that. And we should just be going, stop it all. It's one thing to have a different opinion, but don't be talking down about people. They
No.
raise their families just as
Yeah.
well as you do, and try to go to work and do an honest day's work.
Yeah.
So I am very disgusted with the political system. It's why I
Yeah.
write my books. I mean, one of the things I usually write for whistleblowers, and one of the terrible things that happens to whistleblowers is you think, gee, you blow the whistle on something like
Yeah.
Google or Facebook or CNN or the COVID-19 task force. You
Yeah.
think that these people should be celebrated because they're doing something courageous. Well, what happens to them? Most of the time, the phone doesn't ring. The phone
No.
doesn't ring with their friends. It doesn't ring with employers. And these people who have put themselves on the line,
Yeah.
oftentimes say, what the hell did I do it for? Because
Yeah.
I thought this was going to make the world a better place. And
Yeah.
the world doesn't seem to, respect truth
Yeah.
tellers. And I hate to say it like that
Yeah.
because it sounds kind of negative, but it's true that so many, I kind of feel like I'm one of the few people who, a whistleblower story comes around and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, let me try to get you the accolades. Let me not be the negative guy. Let me talk
Yeah.
about the incredible human spirit that stands up against corruption. And
Yeah.
and I wish I could tell my co-writers who are whistleblowers that
Yeah.
the world is going to get better, but I can't. All I can do is
No.
promise I will get your story out there, and then we'll see if people actually listen to it.
See the American terrain right now is like an alcoholic. They say you have to hit bottom first before you start to look for help. When you're an addict, they always say that the addict, you cannot help him until he hits bottom, and then
Yeah,
we're gonna have to hit a real hard head on the floor. Then we're gonna realize we're gonna lose everything. Once these people realize who's everybody's pulling their way, we're gonna. It's like Solomon, right, in the Bible, when the women had a fight over the baby, and he said,
cut it in
"Yeah,
half.
yeah, cut it out." That's what's happened. You see, my native country is called Yemen, and I have seen war and how it destroyed. We had a country; it had no institutions. Then they started a political party. They started infighting. Then another group they took. Now they've been 10 years without electricity. The war, 100,000 children is in Yemen that have died. We as Americans don't realize how lucky we are that we have something. We gotta be careful because once it break, are you nuts? The United States has 50 states and have 1,000 ethnicities, religious belief. It'll take 1,000 years before you shut down the volcano from the United States. If God forbid something happens, this is it. But I want to go
Well,
back to. Go ahead. Go
well,
ahead.
to my
Yeah.
point, here's kind of the good news. So
Yeah.
you get on social media, you watch the mainstream media. Boy, it seems like a fight. You
Yeah.
walk out of your door and talk to
Beautiful.
your neighbor. Your neighbor is black, white,
Yeah. Yeah.
Korean, Asian, doesn't freaking matter. I mean,
No.
I teach at a school which is only 11% Caucasian.
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
do I enjoy my students
Yeah.
100%?
Yeah.
And they'll have their issues because some are Pakistani and some are
Yeah.
Indian and they
Yeah.
don't like each other, and I got mainland Chinese and Taiwanese
Yeah.
Chinese.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm their teacher. I take care of them. They take care
They
of
do.
me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I kind of figure like, I think it's when you try to solve the world's problems,
Yeah.
there's a danger. The
Yes.
danger is you're going to fight the beast for
Yeah.
too many hours of the day and
Yeah.
not see all the beautiful things around you.
I know.
For me, I spend 2 to 3 hours a day fighting the dragon of
Yeah.
corruption and trying to make my world a better place. And then
Yeah.
the other 21 hours of the day, I am just enjoying myself. I'm enjoying the people around me,
I go
showing
through.
my love to them. And I just kind of figure like maybe that's just the way we should be. Let's all
Yeah.
commit to spending a couple hours a day trying to make the world a better place. But then let's make our immediate family a
I,
good place.
I go to the mall and like especially a big mall here near me once in a while just to become human again. And I
Yeah,
see everybody they eating at the people are getting glasses, the people are buying sneakers. Everybody is like there's nothing that crazy shit that I hear all day on cable network is not here. I'm like, where's
Yeah,
the Civil
so
War?
somebody
Where's the
somebody
national
drops
divorce?
somebody
Huh?
drops their wallet at the mall, and
Yeah,
somebody else rushes to pick it up
yeah,
and
yeah,
give it back to them. That's the kind of thing I see. And so, the 2 to 3 hours a day I spend fighting the dragon. Well, I'm trying to make the world a better place, but I'm also saying, hey, my immediate world is pretty darn good.
yeah. So, I mean, how did you start this fight? I mean, how did you get into your school teacher? I was influenced by two teachers. My third grade teacher, Mrs. Gable, God bless her. She used to wash my clothes and bring me the next day because I had no mother. And my junior high school, his name was Mr. Siegel. He probably is gone already. He used to teach me social studies. He's the one who opened my eyes. He used to tell me, Omar, remember when they used to have that commercial, 4 out of 5 dentists recommend Trident gum?
Yeah.
He said, Omar, how does it sound to you? I said, they asked all these doctors. He said, no, there's only 5 doctors they asked. And as soon as they got the number they want, out of the 4 out of the 5 doctors, and that opened a whole new world. I'm a kid. I'm like, wow. It's like, he's feeding me, and he was talking about the statistics, how the FBI, how it used to have a reporter, his name is Grim on Channel 7. Last year, the FBI reported there was a 22% increase on rape. He said, "Oh my, okay. Did they say actual rape? Did they say alleged rape? Did they say just reported rape?" So he used to teach me how to question the system, but I'm too young to understand. How did you start to question the system? How did you get into this book writing and this and this war you waging against the machine?
Well, first of all, I've always wanted to be a writer, so that was something I
Yeah.
was doing since I was about fifth or sixth grade. Then I have a daughter very severely affected with autism, which is a vaccine injury.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
it nearly took my son, but thankfully he is now fully recovered and living
Yeah.
independently. And then I ran across Dr. Judy Mikovits, who had been published in the journal Science, which is the #1 journal of independent research in the world. And what she had done was she had found that there was a connection
Okay.
to this virus XMRV, but it could be stimulated by a vaccine. And it seems like
Okay.
the connection was really that this was a mouse virus that had made its way into human beings via contaminated vaccines, most likely,
Yeah.
because they use animals to grow viruses. They use animal tissue to grow human viruses and make them less lethal. But when they're sending that back in, they can send other animal viruses. So I kind
Yeah.
of became the virus guy,
Yeah.
and she had a background in HIV and the terrible things that Fauci had done with
Yeah.
HIV, AIDS, and so we were kind of
Okay.
like on the Fauci beat, 5 or 6 years before most of America had heard about Fauci, and so when the COVID crisis hit,
Uh,
we had a book out that talked about Fauci and how he had messed up chronic fatigue syndrome,
yeah.
and then everybody saw the whole playbook that the medical establishment takes when there's a condition that they want to say is a mystery.
Yeah. I watched a little bit of the debate with Alan Derwich. I think he had it about a year ago. Was it
Yeah,
about a year ago? I
yeah.
want to get to know you before, and I listened to you a little bit. I listened to here, and listen. You have some stuff from 7 years ago. I was listening to on YouTube. Everything's on you. So, what's your position on vaccine? Like, for example, I mean, first let me you say, what's your position on vaccine? Are all vaccines bad, or just some, or maybe just some of them? What is your position on vaccines, from smallpox to leukemia to polio to all that stuff? What's your
Here's
position?
something. Here's something you probably don't know.
Yeah.
No individual in America can sue any pharmaceutical company for
Yeah, I
any.
know.
So, as a lawyer, I
Yeah,
look at that and
yeah,
I say, what the heck is going on?
right.
Are you telling me that the system has been bought off so
Yeah,
that, hey, my car, blows a tire? I can
yeah,
sue the automobile maker. And I
yeah,
have these idiots who are going on TV saying vaccines are safe and effective, and you can't even sue them. Like, I have a glass that breaks or something, it
yeah,
cuts me, I can sue them. How in the world are these vaccine manufacturers,
yeah,
how do they have a special court?
Yeah.
What you may not know is that, liberals always talk about the oil and gas industry. Well,
Yeah.
they spend about $150 million a year lobbying Congress. Big pharma,
Yeah.
300 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about $6 billion a year big
Yeah.
pharma spends in the media? You can't watch any show and you don't get something like
Yeah.
Rubelsis. Talk
Oh
to
wait,
your
they
doctor.
no. Oh,
Talk to
jingles.
your
You know what is it
doctor
called?
about Rubelsis.
Shingles. What's it called? Shingles. Every day they scare the shit out of me. I'm afraid to watch the TV.
Yeah.
Oh, you do all day
So
shingles. Shingles are a vaccine. Okay, go ahead. Continue.
So here's my position. I
Yeah.
will never take a single vaccine in my life
Any vaccine.
until something happens, which is they get rid of the vaccine court
Uh,
and we wait about 5 years for the attorneys to go to town on it, just like they do for any pharmaceutical drug. So I'm not against pharmaceutical drugs.
yeah.
They can be great. I'm not against anything of science. What I'm against is I'm against a separate court for a consumer product.
Okay, let's say if you had a child right now, a baby, you wouldn't give him no vaccine at all.
Zero.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a little story. You still there? You froze a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, I came here when I was 8 years old. I'm from a village of about 16 houses. My village is so up in the mountain, I didn't even know what an ocean looks like. I'm gonna be honest with you. I never saw oceans or fish because there's no need to be a fish in a mountain. So in our village, there was 2 to 3 babies of every house that used to die from chicken pox. Yeah, the
Mhm.
chicken pox. Every house.
Chicken pox is very bad
Yeah.
among nutritionally deprived
Yeah,
individuals.
we are naturally deprived because we're from the third world country. We live off the land, but we don't have no vitamin. Only our vitamin D is the sun. You understand? We have no access. But the whole idea is that then these people used to walk around from the United Nations and they used to prick you right here with they used to give you a prick, and that went away. Children survived. No house was losing. I lost like 2, 3 siblings to chickenpox. My cousins, there was a death every time in the house. Some of them they used to live, and become stronger. We knew there was a correlation. I was too young to know between getting the infection. If you get better, it becomes stronger, and you have anti defenses against it. But I think, I mean, at least polio. It doesn't have. I mean, for you to say no to everything, that means you're endangering the whole. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, here's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, what's the better world?
Yeah.
Where your children have good nutrition or they
Yeah.
don't? And is it a good world in which the makers of these vaccines
Yeah.
have complete immunity? If
They
take
shouldn't
that
have
away,
that. Yeah.
take that away, let
Yeah.
the system work.
Yeah.
I'm willing to take a look at it, but you cannot say to me
Yeah.
that these companies are the richest companies in the entire world and they
Yeah.
have complete immunity. It's like if I sold you a car
Yeah.
and I said, okay, Omar, if this car malfunctions and injures your family, too
Yeah.
bad, you can't sue.
Yeah.
If I
Yeah.
said, if you came into my restaurant and I said, Omar, here's this food, but if
Yeah.
it hurts you, you
Yeah.
can't sue me
Yeah. Yeah.
because food is so important.
I agree with you 100%. Even the latest vaccine we had for the COVID, they had to sign that. The government had to give them guarantees that they're not liability, they're not going to be responsible. I took my vaccine. I took the first 2. Then when I started hitting booster, I said, this is not a vaccine no more. It's like a drug addiction now. I got to
Yep.
be every day in CVS pharmacy getting hit. So I took the first 2, and that's it because I was scared, and I do have a compromised immune system. And everybody, in the beginning was scared, and I do follow what the government says. I said, So, but I'm so astonished at the idea that I mean you will not even take one. How about polio? You want to have people walking around crippled all over the place? I mean, polio was crippling all Americans.
Polio is a great story because
Yeah.
what's interesting is the polio virus has been around for thousands of years,
Right,
but it didn't start to become a problem until the 1860s or 1870s. What
right.
was happening at that time? You had the spraying of pesticides on
Oh,
agricultural products.
yeah.
Polio was really interesting because most viruses affect people during the winter, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
but polio was really weird because it affected people in the summertime and in the fall. And in fact, if you go back and you look at when Franklin Roosevelt
Yeah.
contracted it. He contracted it during a September weekend
Yeah.
when, and he was out. And it would also strike not in the cities so much, but in agricultural areas. So I'm really what my belief is that a lot of these things that are mysteries, when you look closer and you see, like, okay, they were spraying DDT around on kids and everything during that
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
time, and also what was sprayed on the produce. So what's really weird is, as they started moving those pesticides out of the environment, kind of with Rachel Carson's and Silent Spring, as the use of those pesticides went down, you had a crashing of the polio rates,
So,
because because the way those things work is they open up the blood vessels so the insects bleed to death. Okay, that's
yeah.
how they kill them. Well,
Right.
what about we get a similar thing in human beings, and supposedly what happens is the polio virus can gain access to your brain, which
Right.
is where that happens. So I think the real story is to look at not just vaccines, but pesticides and the chemical companies, and how they've been affecting our health for probably 150 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand. Oh, it could be. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Because with the industrial revolution, we were not used to the new things the stuff they were doing, and all that stuff. I could understand that. But I find it, very. I have to disagree with you on everything, like because I saw it made a difference. You understand? I saw it with my own eyes that it saved a lot of people's lives in certain part of the country. Because the United States, we have access to a lot of good food. You go to Whole Food.
Yeah,
A matter of fact, we have too much food if we have money to buy it. You understand? But when you
yeah,
live in these, like you said, you eat corn and wheat and all that stuff. It's healthy, but at the end of the day, it doesn't help you. So anyway, is there anything you want to say? I mean, there's so much we could touch on. I mean, the war. I want to get into that. Maybe we could do this again. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I did a lot of interviews, not in this channel. I used to have a different channel, maybe 200. I have never enjoyed a conversation like I enjoyed it, because you're so clear in what you're saying, and I could understand. And there's some sweetness to it. When you listen to somebody talk, you don't have to disagree with him, but you could understand where he's coming from.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's great. I am just about having the conversation, and
Yeah.
as somebody who's been banned from an entire continent because of a
Yeah.
book that I wrote, and I've been banned
Yeah.
by Amazon. I've had my speech at the California Commonwealth Club canceled.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I value free speech, and I don't say I have all the answers, but what you will find is abundant documentation in my books. So you may disagree with my conclusions, but you can't
So,
disagree that I've done my homework.
what's the name of the books? I know you have 14. You want to hit the latest ones? Do you have any pictures?
Yeah. So Presidential Takedown
Okay.
and This Was CNN are my two latest books. You
Yeah.
can check me out at kentheckenlivelybooks.com, or you
Yeah.
can find me at Kent Heckenlively on Twitter.
Okay. Text me that to my and I'll put it on the channel. Then when it goes out, a lot of people will see it. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
Thank you
Nice.
so much.
Thank you, Kent, for coming. I enjoyed the conversation. I learned a lot from you, and I hope we could do this again. Okay.